Kamrajaya Srila Prabhupada Ki. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki. Antaraj Śrimad Bhāgavatam Ki. Shri Shri Radha Govinda Deva Ki. Nitai Gaur Premanandi. Go. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanandi Hari Bol. It's proper that the speaker is given a garland. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasvatim Vyasam Tojayam Udirayet Nastpareshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Śrimad Bhāgavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 7. The sacrifice performed by Daksha. Text number 15. No? Who's got it together here? Yo. We'll do the word for word from the translation. Ya, aso, maya, avitatatva, drisa, sabayam, shipta, durukti, vishikai. What is that noise? Viganaya, tat, mam, arvak, patantam, arhatama, nidaya, apat, dristya, adraya, sa, bhagavan, svakritena, tusyet. Yo so mayadvita tatvadrissa sabhayam. Shipto durukti vishakar viganayatan mam. Okay, we're going to have quite a... What? Better? You think so? Yo so mayadvita tatvadrissa sabhayam. Okay. Sheep show duraktat. Sheep toe durukti visakar viganayatan mam. Arvak patantam ahatama nidayapad. Just yardraya sa bhagavan svakritena tusyet. Yo so mayat vita tatvadrissa sabhayam. Shipta Durukti Vishakar Viganayatan Mam Arvakpatantam Ahatama Nidaya Pad Dristyardraya Sa Bhagavan Svakritena Tusyet
Yoso maya vidita tattva drisha sabhayam.
Could you not change the meter? The way I was singing it is.
Yoso maya vidita tattva drisha sabhayam. Shipto duruti vishike vinayatama. Arvapatanta mahatama nindayatma. Yoso maya vidita tattva drisha sabhayam. Shipto duruti vishike vinayatma. So maya vidita tattva drisha sabhayam. Do durukti vishike viganayatma. Arva padanta mahatama nindaya.
No, Hari, well, that's it, ladies.
So maya vidita tattva drisha sabhayam. Shito durukti vishike viganayatma. Arva padanta mahatama nindaya. Drishyadraya sabhagavan svakritena sushet.
Ya, who, a soul, that, Maya, by me, Vittatattva, without knowing the actual facts, fact, Drissa,
Drisha
by experience, Sabayam, in the assembly, Shipta, was abused, Durukti, unkind words, Visakai, by the arrows of, Viganaya, taking no notice of, Tat, that, Mam, me, Arvak, downwards, Patantam, gliding down to hell, Arhatama, the most respectable, Nidaya, by the defamation, Apat, save, Dristya, seeing, Adraya, out of compassion, Sa, that, Bhagavan, your lordship, Svakritena, by your own mercy, Tushyet, be satisfied. So once again, this is Daksha, awakened to proper consciousness, speaking his prayers in the presence of Lord Shiva, albeit with a head of a goat. I did not know your full glories. For this reason, I threw arrows of sharp words at you in the open assembly. Although you did not take them into account, I was going down to hell because of my disobedience to you, who are the most respectable personality. But you took compassion upon me and saved me by awarding punishment. I request that you be pleased by your own mercy, since I cannot satisfy you by my own words. Report by Srila Prabhupada. As usual, a devotee in an adverse condition of life accepts such a condition to be the mercy of the Lord. Actually, the insulting words used by Daksha against Lord Shiva were enough to have him thrown perpetually into a hellish life. But Lord Shiva, being kind toward him, awarded him punishment to neutralize the offense. King Daksha realized this and, feeling obliged for Lord Shiva's magnanimous behavior, wanted to show his gratitude. Sometimes a father punishes his child, and when the child is grown up and comes to his senses, he understands that the father's punishment was not actually punishment, but mercy. Similarly, Daksha appreciated that the punishment offered to him by Lord Shiva was a manifestation of Lord Shiva's mercy. That is the symptom of a person making progress on the path of Krishna consciousness. It is said that a devotee in Krishna consciousness never takes any miserable condition of life to be condemnation by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He accepts the miserable condition to be the grace of the Lord. He thinks, I would have been punished or put into a more dangerous condition of life due to my past misdeeds, but the Lord has protected me. Thus I have received only a little punishment as token execution of the law of karma. Thinking of his grace in this way, a devotee always surrenders to the Supreme Personality of Godhead more and more seriously, and is not disturbed by such so-called punishment. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagujatam Sahagana Raganatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakavitam Scha A Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabando Jagapate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Taptakanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sandubhya Evacha Tidanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavananaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvashe Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Dibyad Brindaranya Kalpajumada Srimad Ratnagara Singhasanasto Srimad Radha Shilagovinda Devo Vistalabi Savyamano Smarahami Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I did not know your full glories. For this reason, I threw arrows of sharp words at you in the open assembly, although you did not take them into account. I was going down to hell because of my disobedience to you, or the most respectable personality, but you took compassion upon me and saved me by awarding punishment. I request that you be pleased by your own mercy, since I cannot satisfy you by my words. So Srila Prabhupada, without directly mentioning, is indicating in his purport the important verse, number 8, 10th canto, 14th chapter, Lord Brahma's prayers to Lord Krishna after he understood that the calves and cowherd boys that he had hidden, kidnapped for a moment of his time, it was 1 year according to this planet's calculation, and Krishna expanded himself with the same abhiman, mood, mentality, characteristics, tendencies, idiosyncratic, unique features of each individual, identical. And only Lord Balaram could understand, uh, after inquiry from Krishna, that these were actually not the calves and cowherd boys, but they were Krishna himself. So Lord Brahma understood his great offense and mistake in not understanding the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, just like Daksha here is, I did not know your actual position. What does the translation say? Avitva tattva, without knowing the actual fact. This is very much symptomatic of the age of Kali, previous ages as well. Like Duryodhana didn't understand the position of Krishna and his cousin brothers, and from his own envy and the urging of his nefarious friends and relatives like Karna, Sakuni, and others, made so many terrible intrigues against the Pandavas and even their mother, culminating in assassination attempts. You know, it's one thing to, you know, gossip and speak behind one's back or try to defame or rob other people, but to make death, try to arrange for them to be killed, that's at a whole different level. So in the, I believe, 14th chapter of the Antya Lila, where Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is describing the inconceivable feelings of separation of Lord Chaitanya in the mood of Srimati Radharani. He speaks one verse where he's saying, why is Krishna becoming Lord Chaitanya? To try to understand the incredible, inconceivable, amazing, all attractive feelings and qualities of his counterpart whole, Srimati Radharani. So he takes her position to try to understand and to pay homage and to give worshipful appreciation as himself Krishna, and to teach the entire world the glory of the love of the devotees headed by Srimati Radharani. For example, Srila Rupa Goswami, the opening verse of his one-act play, Dana Kali Kamudi, which is the story of the toll pastime. Who here has been to our ISKCON Bhaktivedanta Ashram at Govardhan Hill? What is directly across the street? Dan Nivartan Kun. What happened at that place? That's where the toll pastime took place. So anyway, the book is about the toll pastime and the intrigue and the back and forth conversation between Krishna, his cowherd boys, and Srimati Radharani and her associates. But he speaks this verse to open the whole book in glorification of her Supreme Majesty. All glories to Radha's love for Krishna, the enemy of the Mora demon. Although it is all pervasive, it still increases at every moment. And although, how's it? No, that's the third one, humility. Although it is the most important thing, it's exhibited in the greatest humility. Yeah, and then, okay, although it is the most pure, it is beset with duplicity. Not mundane duplicity, but the logician would find contradiction. Devotee finds no contradiction. So Lord Chaitanya, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is saying the mode of progress, the conditions, I'm paraphrasing because I can't remember exactly. It's very beautiful, very inspirational. Krishna can't understand the devotee, what they go through in offering their devotional service. Just like Lord Nityananda, he's begging, please give me the gift of your liberation. Lord Nityananda is taking Lord Chaitanya around to all the different eaters on the bank of the Ganges and taking a piece of their prasadam out of their pot and putting it in Lord Chaitanya's mouth as a joke. Not as a real joke, but as he's tasting their bhakti. Not understanding the actual facts. Do we really know what is going on? So Vaishnav etiquette, how we are to associate with each other, and that is made very easy to follow all of these beautiful etiquette. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in his Sva Niyama Vedasakam, 12 verses of my own self-imposed regulation, modeled after Raghunath Das Goswami's 10 from, I forget, he made a similar book, but with 10. He's saying there's a certain class of devotee who is expert in following all the instructions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Such a first-class devotee is indeed worshipable, and I will associate and take the foot dust and do everything favorable to please that devotee as my routine each and every day. So cooperating to push on the mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in other words, performing the practical devotional service of spreading Krishna consciousness, makes everything perfect. If we have ulterior motives, if we have separate plans, if we are exploiting or utilizing the facilities that are meant for Krishna's exclusive worship and propagation of his message, then there'll be friction, there will be problem. And ultimately, such a person will not be able to stay. Ultimately, it'll come to physically and practically, but that will be symptomized by their taste for rendering the practical activities of devotional service will dry up. Why am I doing this? Why am I here? I could be doing something better. Look at all the people outside. They're enjoying, they're all dressed in nice fashionable clothes. They're enjoying all this entertainment, and they have all this nice social life, society, friendship, and love, etc. And it is not here. Why am I here? This is a result of offense to devotees and seva aparad, offense to the principles of devotional service. So here, Prabhupada is describing that a devotee in right mind who goes on in his devotional service, suffering seeming adverse conditions, this is actually proof of his transcendental position, and his going back home, back to Godhead, is guaranteed. Of course, Srila Prabhupada departed us before he could render the 14th chapter of the 10th canto. He only up to the 13th chapter. But we will look here. The purport is very nice. Gopi Paramanadana and Hirdayananda Maharaj have given us the commentaries of Acharyas. Here is the translation. My dear Lord, one who earnestly waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds and offering you respectful obeisances within his heart, words, and body, is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim. Shridhar Swami, the original commentator on the Śrimad Bhāgavatam, he lived about 900 or 1,000 years ago, explains in his commentary that just as a legitimate son has to simply remain alive to gain an inheritance from his father, one who simply remains alive in Krishna consciousness, following the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga, automatically becomes eligible to receive the mercy of the personality of Godhead. In other words, he will be promoted to the kingdom of God. There's several other places, Chaitanya Nanda Prabhu helped me to find them, that are quite notable in this regard. Let us look at when Maharaj Rahugana forced Jud Bharat to carry the palanquin. Everyone know the story of Jud Bharat? So he's mistaking, not knowing the actual facts, by the servants or palanquin carriers of this king, Rahugana, that one man dropped out or wasn't able to do it. There's a foursome. So here's a nice strong fellow. Let's get him to do it. They don't understand what an elevated personality he is. So he wouldn't step on any living creatures, ants or small insects on the path, and so he couldn't keep pace with the other palanquin. And so he was like chastised by Maharaj Rahugana, thinking he's a big king and you're just like a lowly Sudra. If you don't do what I say, I will punish you. So when Jud Bharat was previously Maharaj Bharata, the emperor of this planet, to date which India has thus been renamed, for all practical and legal purposes, Bharat. Right. So he countered each and every one of the king's statements from the platform of a perfectly self-realized soul. And King Rahugana his mind was blown, to say the least. And he, much to his good credit, came to his senses and begged forgiveness from Jud Bharat. But before that happened, after Jud Bharat revealed himself, what did Jud Bharat do? When King Rahugana chastised the exalted devotee Jud Bharat, Shri Shri Radha Govinda Ki Jai, with harsh words, that peaceful saintly person tolerated it all and replied properly. Nescience is due to the bodily conception, and Jud Bharat was not affected by this false conception. Out of his natural humility, like if somebody, hey, fatso, hey, skinny, hey, racial slur or whatever it is. Nescience is due to the bodily conception, and Jud Bharat was not affected by this false conception. Out of his natural humility, he agreed to suffer the results of his past karma. Like an ordinary man, he thought that by carrying the palanquin, he was destroying the reactions of his past misdeeds. Thinking in this way, he began to carry the palanquin as before. Prabhupada. An exalted devotee of the Lord never thinks that he is a Paramahamsa or liberated person. We look at Srila Prabhupada's diary, which has been published as the beginning, and most regrettably, there's the Jaladuta diary, which goes up to where Prabhupada comes to the Commonwealth Pier, but there's no record of all those months, September, October, November, December. That beginning diary begins in middle January. What Prabhupada had to go through. On January 22nd, 1966, there was a huge blizzard. Prabhupada wrote in his diary, due to snowfall, we could not go out of our apartment. So he couldn't cook, he couldn't bathe properly for 2 days. Gaur Purnim came somewhat earlier, a few days ago, by solar calendar calculation, saying, I am here without any devotee companion. The devotees of Navadvip are celebrating a grand festival for the appearance of Lord Chaitanya. But I don't regret this, all my inconvenience, because I'm serving my spiritual master. He never accuses the Lord of putting him into a distressed condition. These are the signs of an exalted devotee. Tatenu kampam shushukshamana. When suffering reverse conditions, the devotee always considers that the reverse conditions are the Lord's concessions. He is never angry with his master. He is always satisfied with the position his master offers. In any case, he continues performing his duty in devotional service. Such a person is guaranteed promotion back home, back to Godhead. And Prabhupada quotes the verse. When Maharaj Parikshit was unjustly cursed by the 12-year-old Brahmin boy Shringi, he's coming into the cottage, the Bhajan Kutir of his father, Samika Rishi, who was seemingly or allegedly, it's a nice word that they use these days, allegedly, engaged in meditation. And Maharaj Parikshit is thinking, oh, he's just feigning meditation, making believe. And we just close our eyes. So when the temple commander, the temple president comes, Prabhu, I'm in meditation, you know. You can't wake up a man who's pretending to be asleep. So he's thinking, and so he picks up a dead snake and puts it as a garland. Anyway, so when his son came to know about this, he cursed Maharaj Parikshit and the whole Kshatriya ruling class dynasties as a whole, compared to the Brahmins. It's actually described that Kali, looking for a way to enter big time in Kali Yuga, first found this mistake in the Brahmin community. And it's even described that in one of the Puranas that demons take birth as caste birthright Jata Gosais in this Kali Yuga. Just like His Holiness Jayadvaita Maharaj yesterday describing the temple pujaris of Jagannath Puri compared to Shirchor Gopinath Temple in Ramuna. What was the word that he used? How they dealt with ISKCON devotees and foreigners in general? Antagonistic. That's not a nice antagonism. Whereas in the devotees and the villagers there in Ramuna, loving, welcoming, appreciative. Upon returning, the king began to contemplate and argue within himself whether the sage had actually been in meditation, his senses concentrated and eyes closed, or whether he had just been feigning trance to avoid receiving a lower kshatriya. The king, being a devotee of the Lord, did not approve of his own actions and thus began to wonder when the sage was really in trance or was just pretending in order to avoid receiving the king. Repentance comes in the mind of a good soul as soon as he commits something wrong. We all have the experience that we do something, we say something, and the reaction and how the reverberation and the implications, and wow, maybe I could have not said that or said it differently, or somehow done it better. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti and Srila Jiva Goswami do not believe that the king's actions were due to his past misdeeds. The arrangement was made by the Lord just to call the king back home, back to Godhead. And of course, in Maharaj Parikshit's case, what is the most important outcome of this whole seemingly unfortunate situation? The plan was for that his so-called misdeed, the king would be cursed by an inexperienced Brahmin boy infected by the influence in Kali, and thus the king would leave his hearth and home for good. His connections with Srila Shukadeva Goswami would enable the presentation of the great Śrimad Bhāgavatam, which is considered to be the book incarnation of the Lord. The holy name is the sound incarnation of the Lord. The Bhagavat Purana, Grantaraj, king of all literatures, the incarnation of Krishna, the Śrimad Bhāgavatam, the first canto, his lotus feet, rising up to the 10th canto, the smiling lotus face of the Lord, and the 11th and 12th cantos are actually the turban and helmet on top of the Lord. The book Incarnation of Lord gives much fascinating information of the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, like his Rasa Leela with the spiritual cowherd damsels of Brajabhumi. Just like we were hearing in Prabhupada's preface to the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that Lord Chaitanya Krishna has come, taking the mood of Radharani, to teach that the method of worship of the residents of Vrindavan, topmost, the damsels of Braja, is the topmost and most perfected and most from Krishna's point of view, the greatest form of devotional service one can render. So all of that because of Maharaj Parikshit's seeming mistake. This specific pastime, the Lord's Rasa Leela, with the spiritual cowherd damsels of Brajabhumi, has a special significance. Very powerful, very important significance. And what is that? Because anyone who properly learns about this particular pastime of the Lord will certainly be dissuaded from mundane sex life, which of course is the binding principle which keeps us in this material world, birth after birth after birth, and be placed on the path of sublime devotional service to the Lord. The king's distressed condition was certainly unprecedented. The devotees like Maharaj Parikshit are powerful enough to forbear such distresses. And there's a very important verse which later comes at the end of this chapter. Parikshit Maharaj cursed by a Brahmin boy. 48. The devotees of the Lord are so forbearing that even though they are defamed, cheated, cursed, disturbed, neglected, or even killed, they are never inclined to avenge themselves. The situation in this case was therefore all planned by the Lord. Yes. So the symptom of the devotee is that he fully trusts in the Lord's organization, let's say, how do you say, taking charge of one's life, that everything that happens throughout one's life in devotional service. The devotee understands it is all under the plan of the Lord, under his supreme artistry. Pradyumna Mishra, instructed by the Lord. I say this many times. It's very nice. The Lord knows very well the what a devotee is all about and what they go through. And just like an artist makes his easel and paints his masterpiece, right? You finish painting, just look what I did here, and considers it his personal profit. So the Lord, the way he arranges our individual lives, it just adds to his glory. Sadaishvarya Purna, all strength, wealth. Help me with the six opulences. The best one is renunciation. Beauty, fame, strength, wealth. Fame, kirti, Shruta kirti, one who's spotless fame. And renunciation. But as we heard from in the prayers by the Sonified Vedas Krishna book, the Lord's greatest glory is his causeless mercy upon his pure devotees. Lord Krishna's ultimate instruction in the Bhagavad Gita is that everyone should surrender unto him, Lord Krishna, and Krishna promises to take immediate charge of such a surrendered soul. When the Lord says that he takes charge of his pure devotee, he actually takes direct charge. We're not under the external laws of nature when you take the devotional service, especially when you seal the deal taking Vaishnav Diksha. Then it's on a whole new level. Prabhupada says in one place that the Lord, sometimes a father with his seeing his unruly children disobedient, he puts them under the control of a severe man just to right them. That's this material world. He actually takes pure, direct charge. A pure devotee is a soul who is forever surrendered to the Lord, just as a child is surrendered to his parents or an animal to his master. So the Saranagati of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, one should accept things favorable for discharging devotional service. 2, reject things unfavorable. 3, always believe firmly in the Lord's protection. 4, feel exclusively dependent on the mercy of the Lord. 5, have no interest separate from the interest of the Lord. And 6, always feel oneself to be meek and humble. So the representative of the Lord, the spiritual master who takes charge of the disciple, the eternal Father. Prabhupada, in great emotion, on Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's disappearance day in Los Angeles, December 1968. We think that we lose something by giving to Krishna, but I have my personal experience. I had my family life so many children. Now, it's 1968, I have 300 children. I think it was Govinda Dasi, or maybe one other lady disciple. She said, do you have children, Srila Prabhupada? And Prabhupada just looked very, emphatically and purely, are you not my child? So the parents always want to see the child on the path of righteousness and to get all the facility they have and so much more. So I'd like to conclude what I'd like to present today. A very amazing example of Srila Prabhupada administering heavy words of instruction. You can even use the word chastisement, but it was to bring the disciple to a higher position of appreciation. And also, like if somebody gets angry with you or lords it over with you or corrects you or bosses you around, and there's like a grudge, there's a residue.
If the grudge ever goes away, then it has to take years and months. But with a pure devotee, because they're doing it for Krishna and it's done out of love, what seems to be like a chastisement, if the thing is corrected properly, then everything is moved on progressive instantly. And in a sense, it's forgotten about. Because the pure devotee, like the father, like the mother, their love for their disciple, for their child, is just causeless and unlimited. So Srila Prabhupada, Satsvarup Maharaj, I believe from January to July, the first 6 months of 1974, was Srila Prabhupada's personal servant and secretary. I've been doing a lot of menial work, doing all kinds of things, constantly busy, being the representative of the spiritual master to all the other disciples and to the public and people in general. So also taking dictation. Prabhupada would have a time during the day when his mail would be read to him and he would dictate his reply. During the time in Los Angeles, I received my most severe chastisement from His Divine Grace. He rang his bell one afternoon and I entered while he was sitting talking with Shrutakirti. Who here has been to Prabhupada's Los Angeles quarters, his rooms, which are kept very nicely? So this is where this happened. I offered obeisances, touching my head to the floor, and then sat on the floor facing him. His room, with its light blue walls, burnt orange curtains, and low desk, had a pleasant atmosphere, and it was always exciting and awe-inspiring to be with Srila Prabhupada. In a matter-of-fact way, Prabhupada asked me about a letter I had dictated to Guru Das. So at this time, Guru Das and Yamuna Devi, they were the temple president of the construction site, which is now the Krishna Balaram Mandir in Vrindavan, which on Ram Navami on the 5th of April this year will be, we will be celebrating the 50th anniversary of the grand opening. Shrutakirti said, he was asked, when did you see Prabhupada the happiest and when did you see him the most upset? Okay, the most upset is when he busted the Gopi Bhava Club in Los Angeles. And when he was the most happy, as Dinabandhu would say, when he offered the first arti to Krishna Balaram, and Dinabandhu was positioned right to see, and Prabhupada turned around, especially with each article, the incense and then the ghee lamps, and by the time the peacock feather, and he's fanning all the devotees, the look of full satisfaction on Srila Prabhupada's face. Shrutakirti affirmed this was the greatest happiness that he'd ever seen Prabhupada in. So, had dictated a letter to Guru Das, which I had subsequently typed and mailed to New Delhi. Prabhupada wanted to know if I had remembered to enclose a carbon copy of his previous letter, which Guru Das had never received. In other words, Prabhupada wrote this letter and said, enclosed is see enclosed, the enclosed other letter. So Guru Das is writing back that there was no enclosed letter. I thought a moment and then told Prabhupada, no, I didn't. I was surprised Prabhupada was thinking of such an obscure detail. It seemed amazing that he should all of a sudden refer to this, and by his remembering, he had caught me in a mistake. Prabhupada looked seriously concerned. I wrote in that letter, he said, that a copy of the previous letter wasn't enclosed. Why did you send out a letter by me saying a letter was enclosed, but with no letter actually enclosed? I shook my head, showing that I agreed it was wrong. That is childish, said Prabhupada. It makes no sense. I couldn't find the copy in the files, I said defensively. That was a fact. It wasn't in the files kept by the previous secretary, or at least I hadn't been able to find it. I glanced over at Shrutakirti and then back to Srila Prabhupada. Shrutakirti, I can't help you. How far was this going to go? I became more apprehensive. I can sense it wasn't over yet by any means. This will be a reflection on me, Srila Prabhupada persisted, that I sent such a childish letter saying something was enclosed, but nothing was enclosed. Srila Prabhupada was demanding something more from me. I was aware that he was instructing me on a deeper level, in a basic lesson, but the whole thing was becoming very hard to bear. It was hard to see him displeased with me, he whom I lived to please and worship, and it was hard to admit that I was wrong. I forgot, I mumbled, but Prabhupada wasn't satisfied. It was as if he couldn't even believe that I had been so careless. Why did you do it? He asked sharply. How could such a letter be sent? At these words, my eyes began to water and my insides quaked. By this one mistake, he was exposing my inadequate devotional attitude and my lack of surrender. Like a sudden rain, tears began to pour down my cheeks. I took out a handkerchief and blew my nose. I wiped the tears, but they kept coming. Srila Prabhupada, unmoved by this wet emotional display, remained transcendently angry, sticking to the point. All right, I thought, let me give the honest explanation. Let me confess. I left the letter out, I said with a choked voice, because I did not take seriously the duty you have given me. This must be the reason. I am simply not taking these instructions seriously. I am not taking the relationship seriously. Therefore, I made such a mistake. My negative confession did not pacify him. But now Prabhupada looked at me differently. His eyes were full of feeling and disappointment. This pushed me to an even more distressed state. I was no longer merely sitting in a room with light blue walls having an official talk with my official spiritual master. I was desperately fighting to keep alive in spiritual life. His sincere disappointment in me was the last thing I wanted. Why do I say that I don't take this instruction seriously? I asked myself. Srila Prabhupada is everything to me. When it dawned on me that Prabhupada was not going to let me go just by crying or admitting my fault, I fought with all my wits in a practical attempt to figure out what to do. What I needed was a plan to rectify the wrong. What I have to do, I said, is send Guru Das another letter that I will write myself. Now I could sense that my brain was working in the way Prabhupada desired. Govinda Dasi, she has an amazing story that she and Gaura Sundar was sent to Hawaii to open a temple, and there was nothing, so first they had to make money. So she got a secretarial job with a really good firm with high-paying money in downtown in Honolulu. And Prabhupada surprised them by saying, I'm coming now, or like within, so she had to quit her job. And Prabhupada arrived, and everything is being done as normal, but Prabhupada could see that she was not in right consciousness. And then, I forget exactly the circumstances, the particulars, but Govinda Dasi said that Prabhupada could understand what I was thinking and feeling, and with just a few gestures, he completely rewired my thinking. And I realized that, okay, I'm chanting, I'm going through all the things, but I kind of lost the mark. Why am I doing this? Because out of love, and like, who cares about the job? And like, and Prabhupada is here. What am I doing? It's like, and Prabhupada had that mystic ability to just completely, he knows even she's writing Prabhupada while Prabhupada was recovering in India from July to December 1967. I just want to say, I know your mind. Now I could sense that my brain was working the way that Prabhupada desired. I'll apologize, I had left out the enclosure you wanted me to send them. So you're going to write this letter to Guru Das. Do it, said Srila Prabhupada. I was at once dismissed. After that scene, Prabhupada maintained no grudge at all and never referred to the incident again. Even when I next saw him, I had learned several lessons. One was to not take my service lightly, but to attend to all details with gravity. I also saw that I could not play games with Prabhupada and Krishna because they would eventually know what I was doing. I also learned through the suffering of reprimand that whenever I made a mistake, I should neither defend myself nor uselessly lament, but find a practical means of correction. You can read it yourself. Here's the bookmark. Thank you very much. We have a minute and a half to ask questions. Any questions or comments? Whoever dares to do so, it better be a good one. Mm, mm.
What's the best kind of question to ask in Bhāgavatam?
So we keep in mind that Lord Chaitanya, he does not consider offenses. He simply gives love of Krishna. So the class that Kadamba Kanamaj gave sitting right here on this Vyasasan, and I think it was Gopal Champa who asked this question, that it's Kali Yuga, and, I forget exactly, things are so degraded. And Maharaj just kind of like laughed it off or brushed it off, saying this is the Chaitanya Yuga, that this is the age of Lord Chaitanya, and everything that's going on is simply to expand his movement more and more. Not that okay, let me just go to sleep, like the servant in Dalhousie Square, and we work very diligently, just as Srila Prabhupada did, and the results are there. So it's a very important festival. Gaurabda, 539, 530, or 39 years since 1986. And happy Transcendental New Year. Hare Krishna. Shri Shri Radha Govinda ki jai. Shri Jagannath Baldev Subhadra Devi ki jai. Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi. Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. So we will abide and take it in stride, and we won't lie or cry, but we'll again go outside. Could you order me another car hat because he lost?